Alright guys, since we have finished the book, I'm going to talk about your Shades of Grey project. If you notice on my screen, there are only 2 pieces to the project. The first part you can still do, definitely. It's just not going to be part of the required project. The first part was going to be like an advertising piece to advertise either the movie or the book, to kind of foreshadow what might happen given the situation. I mean, if you have great ideas, go for it. Some of the movie posters I've gotten in the past are some of my favorite things. But the only requirement is going to be to do the entree and the dessert. So for the entree, the whole point is to summarize the book and what happened to Lena, her family, and the others affected by Stalinism. And then you're going to also make sure to include some key ideas from the time period. So talking about I would try to hit on pieces about like what they did at the collective farm, maybe something about purging people who didn't agree with Stalin, that sort of thing. But you're going to summarize the book at the same time as doing that. So you have a couple different options, but what I want you to remember is you're summarizing the book. So think about how you can do that creatively without just necessarily like writing a couple paragraphs to summarize it. You have lots of options and it goes beyond what I have here. So you can do a comic summary. You could do this online or on paper. So if you do it on paper, then we'll take a picture of it and submit it that way. But a comic summary would be like a comic strip showing all the details. I think I have said in the past that to get like a full summary, we would do like probably 8 to 10 slides in the comic strip for sure, just to make sure that we get everything. Graphic summary, this is super open. So like if you're really artistic and you can create like a piece of artwork in some way that means a lot of different things that summarizes the book. I'm not an artist, so like this is definitely not for me, but it might be for you. But it can be anything artistic to summarize it. The song or poem, you can create your own, or you can rewrite a couple songs from the perspective of Lena and 2 other characters in the book. Ones of those I've gotten in the past are pretty great. Or you could do a collage, and the collage, if you think about a collage, anyone can pull pictures off of Google and put them on a piece of paper. So you are going to have to include some sort of explanation or arrange them in some sort of meaningful way. Just putting a pocket watch on a page and saying that Jonah's life was worth a pocket watch isn't quite high school standards. But then there are also a ton of other ideas that I'll post in a second. It could really be anything. The third part is the dessert. So the whole goal of the dessert is to research some real stories of Gulag survivors and compare those stories to that of Lena and her families. So remember, these are Gulag survivors, so survivors of the Soviet Union gulags, not Holocaust survivors. So even if you type in Gulag survivor stories into Google, which you will get information that pops up, but you will also find, you'll have to make sure that if they're talking about a Jewish survivor, that they are talking about a Jewish person taken from their homes by the Soviet Union and put into a gulag, because anytime you type in survivor story, because the Holocaust is so popular, the Holocaust pops up. So what you are going to do with these stories after you research them, you are going to, you have 3 different choices on here. I have one addition, but you can do a journal or a diary entry. So you could do a journal entry. You could combine the stories and kind of create your own story based on like what you've researched as well as what you've learned in the book. You could do maybe like a back and forth journal entry, so show like what Lena experienced and then show like the real life experience. That's up to you. The second one would be a biography movie or a podcast. If you have your phone or your Chromebook, you can easily record audio and create a podcast. You can make it as creative with sounds and whatever as you want. You could do it with interviewing the author of the book, talking about Lena and her experience, and then also interviewing actual survivors of the Gulag. You could do it as them talking to each other. Totally up to you. The last one would be a newspaper story, so this would probably actually include 2 stories. One might be like reviewing the book and the accuracy based on what you have researched, and then the other part would be you talking about an actual survivor story. With all of these, make sure to include details to show that you read about a survivor, learned about their story, learned about what's unique about their story. The add-on that I've had a lot of people do in the past would be you guys could create an alternate ending to the book based off of these survivor stories. So the ending would then include Lena's story, the characters in Lena's book, but like the inspiration for the ending would come from what your survivors experienced. Or you could have it where like they find if you find a guy, survivor story from a guy from a labor camp, you could have them like find their dad and have him kind of tell his side of the story a little bit. So it's really pretty open with any of these projects. Really, my goal is for you guys to 1, summarize, and 2, do a little research and find some actual survivor stories and put them together in a creative way. And then hopefully we can share them somehow. So here are some of the other ideas. Take what you want, leave what you don't. Let me know if you guys have questions.